Welcome to Fitness Casual. Real results come from more clarity, not more effort. I'm Andrew Hayes, and with me is the quiet, terse, succinct Kat Best. You're not noisy.
Hello.
I would say.
I'm not noisy. Definitely not.
Deliberate in your delivery. We're going to talk about food noise today, but we were just talking before. I don't know what kind of music you like, which is crazy because we talk every single day. What do you listen to at the gym? What do you listen to when you're not at the gym? What's your go-to genre?
I love Spanish music. That's probably my most listened to. I don't know the lyrics. I have no idea what they're singing about, but I love the beat. So I'm a big fan of that. And then I also love hair metal. Big fan of like 80s hair metal bands. So that's a big one I like to listen to. And then today I discovered I really like Afro House. So I am now in a Afro House mode. Because I like the beat. They're long songs, which I like long, good rhythm, whatever. So, but Afro House and Spanish music have a very similar thing going on there. But yeah, that's what I'm into lately. But I am not a music snob. I don't care about artists. I just like what sounds good to me, and that's what I do.
That's so funny. I love that. Those are good answers. See, most people are like, I like everything. So that's really cool. I mean, I do. Well, first of all, when I was in Mexico City a few years ago, Azuna is his name.
Yes.
I think.
Oh yeah.
Like big Latin artist. He was staying at the hotel I was at. It looked like there was about to be a riot. I mean, tens of thousands of people standing outside just to like get a glimpse of him. And he's not even as big as like Bad Bunny and. It's just like that. That genre is massive in terms of like fervor around the world. So that's pretty cool. I grew up in New Jersey, Kat, just like you. And I think EDM is like in our bones when you grow up in New Jersey. And also just the age that I am, it was kind of in a boom when I was in high school and college. And so that's my big thing at the gym, just the beats, And when I did my fitness certs, one of them, I think it was personal training or maybe group fitness. I can't remember. One of them that I did, there's a whole chapter on music and fitness, and like it's there's a lot of studies behind the right BPM to keep you motivated, and you'll see that like any good, even the boutique classes in Orange Theory, a Soul Cycle, like they're really really big on music because there's a lot of science behind it. And so like it's cool if you want to listen to a podcast and work out, that's great, and I do that sometimes too. But if you're really not feeling motivated, like find something with a really fast BPM, and it might affect your workout more than you realize. And so that's why I'm big on the EDM. I'm also an old man now, and I just re-listen to the stuff from like 10 years ago because the new stuff doesn't vibe for me, and that's how I know I'm old because my parents say the same thing about my music, and so it goes. I'm an old man now, I guess. That's what happens.
I will still listen to what I listened to in like high school, and like love it just as much.
That's right. That's right. It'll be an oldies station soon playing Kanye West, and that's when I'll know I'm really over the hill. Well, we're talking about food noise today, which is actually a really serious topic. And I'm going to let you cook here, as we said earlier, Kat. But I just want to add up front, as someone who does a lot of calls for the program, who talks to a lot of people who come in and work with us or don't work with us, I believe that most people don't realize how bad this is in their head. And I think, again, as we always say in this podcast, everyone's looking for that supplement, that macro calc. And I actually think this is what most people don't realize is holding them back. It's really, really important. It is constant. It's different for every person. And so if you're listening to this episode, then you probably already know that it's for you. But I would encourage you, if you're not going to stick through this, to really be open-minded about, I think everyone has some level of food noise because these patterns are created for decades. And so be open-minded. Maybe you haven't come to this conclusion yet, but I bet you can learn a lot today. You agree with that, Kat?
Yes, and if it's not you that has it, it's probably someone you love very dearly is struggling with this. It's something that a lot of people who have been trying to diet forever but seem to never get there or like never reach success, this is a very common thing that I hear about. I would say there's a certain type of person who has a lot more food noise, and we're going to get into more of the psychological things, but it's really common for a lot of people who are just in this space and care about their health, but there's some disconnect between what they want and their actions. Food noise is a root of a lot of those things. And food noise can sound very broad, but really is just the constant mental chatter or intrusive thoughts around food, even when you're not physically hungry. I would say mostly when you're not physically hungry. It could sound like what am I going to eat? I need to be good today. Should I have that cookie? I can't stop thinking about that cookie, but I really want that cookie. But if I have it, I'm going to be bad. Oops, I had it, so fuck this day. I'm going to eat 5 more cookies. I hate myself. The next day comes and you're like, oh my God, I had that cookie. And then it's just a never ending cycle of thoughts in your head around food. This is not the same as having a craving. This is more of a preoccupation around food, eating, or body related choices that can feel all consuming. This really can take up someone's brain space all day long, and it is completely unrelated to what your body is actually feeling, like hungry or fullness or energy levels. It is more of like a permanent state of things going on in your head. So again, for people who have had weight issues their whole life or most of their life, this is something that is very common, and it's not like their intentions are in the wrong place. It's just what happens when you're hypervigilant around food and eating and all of this stuff, childhood patterns. This arises for a lot of people, and food noise really, really matters. Like I said earlier, it's something that a lot of people mention to me right away when we first do our onboarding call or whatever, but it plays a huge role in your behaviors. And one of the biggest struggles for people who yo-yo diet, have disordered eating, or unspecified body image and food struggles. You do not need to have an eating disorder to struggle with food or have disordered thoughts around food. So that's a really important thing I want to mention there. There is a fine line between those two things, but you can definitely have food noise and not need to have an eating disorder as well. And food noise is exhausting mentally and emotionally. It feels like decisions are really hard to make. So if you're at a restaurant and you're looking at the menu and you're starting to get stressed out and you don't know what to get, you want that thing, but you think you should have the other people around you are talking about appetizers and you're like dying inside because you know you don't want to have any, that is food noise as well. So that's something that can definitely come up. It makes intuitive eating impossible. I would say it's actually impossible to eat intuitively when you have food noise because you cannot tap into your intuition. You don't have a good sense of what is best for you, and that's why when people have food noise and then they're encouraged not to track their food because maybe it makes it worse, now we're really confused because they don't trust themselves, they don't trust what they know because they haven't built that skill set yet, so that can be really confusing. And I know that is a common strategy for food noise, is to like not overly track your food or whatever. We'll get into that in a little bit. But food noise really triggers guilt, fuels a binge restrict cycle where you overeat one day and you undereat the next, and then you're hungry, so you overeat again, and overall body dissatisfaction. People who are constantly unhappy with how they look, even if they are hitting strength goals or doing sports or being active, whatever, if they're really unsatisfied with how their body looks, food noise can actually be part of that as well. And ultimately, it will derail healthy routines. If you are struggling with food noise, you are having trouble developing consistent routines that you feel good about, that are good for you. Usually this keeps women stuck in this cycle for decades, for a really long time, because they haven't found a way to get themselves out of it. And that's because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and there's a lot of reasons people have food noise. So I like to categorize this into physical root causes and psychological. This is really important to know, that food noise, ultimately, we are looking at it like a symptom, like something is wrong, something is off. But what that root cause is very different for each person. So maybe when you're listening to this, some things will resonate with you, some might not. But I think this just provides some clarity on what's actually going on. So for physical root causes, these are biological unmet needs. Things your body needs that you are not giving it, whether it's food or a habit or something, so your body is responding in this way. Blood sugar instability is probably one of the most common ones I see here. This could be from skipping meals, eating too many carbs with no protein or fat. These things really cause more glucose spikes and these crashes, which exacerbate thoughts around food. Cortisol and adrenaline play a big role in cravings and the intensity of needing it now. There is something about when people have a craving and they want it now, I need it right this moment, and you can't think about anything else, you are distracted by the cookies in the office or whatever, that is definitely, could be related back to your blood sugar or what you ate for your lunch or what you had for breakfast, like those things do play a role. And I would say I have definitely had food noise for a very long time. I would say most of my life I've had food noise. I probably still have it now to some degree, but managed because I have like really good intuitive senses. But it is that idea of like, I want this thing and I need it now and I can't focus on anything until I get it. Or if you don't have it, you feel bad, and like this cycle of just mental chatter. For me, that used to be very strong, but when I look back at how I used to eat, like my blood sugar was on a roller coaster all day long. I didn't eat protein. I ate too much sugar. Like I gave into my cravings, which made it worse, like all of these things. And now I see why I really struggled so much back then, but I didn't know any different. Poor sleep is another one. So poor sleep will increase ghrelin and decrease leptin. So that means your hunger hormones are turned up and your fullness hormones are turned down. So now we are really hungry and we're not really feeling full when you are not getting enough sleep, and your brain seeks dopamine. So that could be sugar or carbs or comfort food. You know, all of these things are also related to poor sleep. So if you have a night of really bad sleep and the next day your cravings are worse, you're thinking more about food, you're more frustrated or whatever it is, maybe you like don't like looking at yourself in the mirror that day, it could be just related to getting poor sleep. So this is super important because you need to know if you got really bad sleep the night before, maybe this next day is going to be a little hard. This definitely happens to me. I feel like a night after poor sleep is rough, but I will remind myself, like, I'm going to have more cravings. I'm going to feel less full. I'm just going to be like itching for things I don't normally want. But if you know that, now you have that piece of information to make informed choices. So it's really easy to be like, oh, there's that thing that's from my poor sleep, instead of being like, why do I have no control? Oh my God, like turning it into like this victim thing. If you're just like, I didn't get enough sleep, that's why I feel this way. Like that makes a lot of sense.
Last night, my son woke me up at 1 a.m. holding his water bottle to take the cap off so he could fill it to drink water in the middle of the night. I was up for like 3 hours after that because I was frustrated. You know, it's like then you start catastrophizing everything. And it's, first of all, it's one of those things as a parent, you're like, this is simultaneously the dumbest thing in the world that I have to unscrew this cap for you, but also simultaneously vital for your life. Yep. Like you need to drink water and you're thirsty. So of course I'm going to provide for you. So it's just a funny parenting moment. But yeah, then I woke up this morning tired. Like we have, multiple recordings to make today and like not craving what I usually want for breakfast. And this is something that you and I have worked on and that I also see you work on with hundreds and hundreds of people. So now I have all the tricks and I'm aware, right? But if you aren't aware, exactly as you mentioned, you start to spiral. And yes, food noise can also be mental, which we'll cover in a second, but it can often start as physical and then it leads to mental. And then you feel guilty and then you feel hard on yourself and then it becomes both. And it's this really difficult hole to climb out of. So for me, having a sleepless night that I couldn't avoid is really not a big deal because I had the right tools in place. So again, do not overlook this. Yes, going to the grocery store and stocking more healthy foods and less sugary foods is a great strategy too. But your body's, going to want to do what it's going to want to do, and you'll find that sugar. It's available everywhere. Every gas station, every ice cream shop that opens at 10 a.m., like you'll go get it if you really want it. And so you need to work through these strategies. So pay attention to what Kat is saying. I'm saying.
Yeah, it's so true. Like sleep it's so fundamental, but it's just having that awareness to know how you're going to feel even before it happens. Which the next physical root cause is nutrient deficiencies. So this is super common for a lot of people. And these are also deficiencies that we can't necessarily go get blood work done to know. It's a little tricky for some of these, but not eating enough protein, low iron, low omega-3s, zinc, magnesium, and B vitamins are some of the more specific ones that really can deplete your body. And your body is literally not satisfied with what you're eating. So this can impact your appetite regulation. It can, make you crave more specific things or think about certain foods because your body is lacking them. So this is why it's just important to eat a well-rounded, balanced diet with a lot of proteins, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, healthy dairy products. All of these things is ideal to check off these or just to try not to have nutrient deficiencies. I think iron is one of the most common ones I see in people, and I definitely see a correlation with that and cravings or mindset around food. So definitely something to be said there. And the last physical root cause would be inflammation or hormone imbalance, or both of those things. So inflammation interferes with leptin, which is the satiety hormone. So that's signaling to you that you're always hungry. or if you're not always physically hungry, you're always thinking about food because your body wants something that you're not giving it. This definitely can impact your gut health, which to cause some sort of dysbiosis. And if you have an imbalance of gut bacteria, it impacts your nutrient absorption. So this is where you could be eating all of the things but not absorbing them, and then your body is not getting the nutrients you need. This can create more inflammation, hormone imbalances, and I do think people with gut issues struggle with food noise more often from what I see. I think there's a big correlation there, and the root cause of that is tricky for a lot of things, but if you do have inflammation or symptoms of inflammation or hormonal imbalance that you're aware of, this definitely can be impacting your food noise, which is why balancing out these things can really help reduce it. And all of the 4 physical causes I just mentioned are usually things people have no idea about. It's not like we're taught this, you're not meant to know this, but if we bring awareness to it, there's like a light bulb moment to where the thoughts in your head or that never-ending mental chatter can make a lot more sense. So the psychological root causes, so these are really, really common as well. And this is really conditioning from emotional associations with food. Now, a lot of people talk about emotional eating. I think we all know what that means. Probably, depends on the individual and how your relationship with emotional eating is, but we all get the idea of that sometimes you take things out on food that need to be processed otherwise, but you are unable to do so. So psychologically, one of the root causes is chronic dieting or restriction. This is because food becomes forbidden, and if you forbid something, your brain fixates on it. And scarcity really can create obsession. This is super important to know. If you tell yourself you can never have cookies, you will think a lot more about those cookies. And if you categorize food as good or bad, you are putting moral value onto food, which is really ridiculous, and then that makes your identity wrapped up in your food choices, which makes every bit of food you eat feel like it's really high stakes. So for me personally, I think we all know, I eat pretty healthy most of the time. I like to cook my food. I care about that a lot. But if I have a bite of something not good, like I was just on vacation, I had ice cream, desserts, no part of me told myself I was bad or that was bad. It didn't even cross my mind, right? So it's like, you don't need to identify as the foods you eat, and you shouldn't. I don't identify as the best healthy eater in the world. It's not related to who I am as a person. It's a value of mine, but it definitely doesn't mean I am good or better than other people and they're bad because of what we eat. So you can't use those terms for you. And I know this is annoying for any of my clients listening, but if you say to me, is this bad? Is this a bad food? I will correct you so fast on not using that word. I get so annoyed by that. And it's not because you have bad intentions. It's because it's so prevalent in our society that food is either good or bad. That's just not how food works. And I just like to get the black and white thinking away from people because nothing is bad. It's just all about in relation to what else you're eating and what your goals are. But again, if you are putting anything off limits, try not doing that. Doesn't mean you need to eat the food, right? For me, I personally avoid a lot of foods because I don't think about them. I'm not like pizza. I'm not thinking about pizza. If I was thinking about pizza nonstop, not letting myself have it, that's a very different situation, but I literally don't think about it. So you also don't need to obsess about the things you can't eat. But if that is you and you have food noise, then we need to do something there or fix that relationship. Another psychological root cause is emotional eating or stress coping with stress through food. This is reinforcing the idea that food is a reward, that it's a comfort or a distraction. That is a conditioned response that will get very strong the more that you do that. So if you're in your 40s and you're trying to get a hold of your emotional eating, you have 40 years of unpacking that relationship, so it's not going to happen right away. You would be surprised how much stuff in your childhood impacts how you eat and as an adult. The things your parents told you about your favorite treats, or the thing your friend said to you that one time you got ice cream, all of those things really live in our brains. But you need to make sure that every time you are stressed out, food is not the escape. We are all stressed all day long in today's world. It's very prevalent to be really stressed, but food should never be a coping mechanism. And I think that's one thing I've really tried to do with myself, is just not let food be an outlet. It's a choice. It's a hard choice when you're stuck in that, when you're in the cycle, but you can get out of it. Your brain is incredible. You can rewire it to do other things. But if you just tell yourself, I don't want to stress eat anymore, so I'm not, and then you have no other coping mechanism in place, it's not going to work. You are now using the wrong tool to get the desired result, so it's not going to work long term. So we need to just do some more work on unpacking your emotions and channeling your stress in the right ways. And then the last one here, I think, is a surprising one, and this is lack of purpose or fulfillment. So food is a reliable daily source of joy. Probably the most reliable one in today's world. I know some people probably go a whole week without feeling joy around specific things, but food is always something you can go get. You can order takeout. Like, it's right there as a very quick source of comfort. And people who are lacking real joy in day-to-day life seek these quick comforts. And if you're eating ultra-processed food, this creates a very quick dopamine hit when nothing in life doesn't. So if you take that first bite of ice cream and you're like, oh my God, it's so good, I bet you're not feeling that by the end of that ice cream, because that dopamine hit wears off. But it's something about having that first bite, that hyper palatable mouthfeel of the sweet, the salty, all the textures and all of that. That is a huge dopamine hit. But it is very short-lived, and it makes your food noise even worse if you do allow yourself to get in that cycle of getting those dopamine hits. And I think people whose life is full of purpose, whether it's related to your job or not, your family, whatever, you need hobbies, you need social connection, all of these things. I do think people are less likely to struggle with food noise because they are probably more grateful for things, or they just have maybe more of a growth mindset, or just a different outlook on life. So if you think and you're like, I don't really have much joy in my life other than the food I eat, or waiting until Saturday where I can have that beer and the pizza, that is something definitely to work on.
I want to underscore this because I live this, and at no point in my life have I ever woken up with severe depression. I hate my job, that kind of, I'm fortunate for that, but that doesn't mean that you can't also go to work every day and just be like, another day pushing paper. I've been there, and I think it's not a coincidence. We have lots of the same professions in our program. Like, we see time and time again, very similar professions, people who just have really high stress, maybe kind of ended up in this career and it's not for them. I have done food therapy, I have done retail therapy, I've done all the coping mechanisms when I went through that, and there is nothing better than prioritizing yourself instead. The analogy that I like the most is, if you've ever had a really rough night's sleep, like the one I just talked about, everything bothers you that day, right? Everything your kid says to you, everything your partner says to you, like someone honks at you, the TV's a little too loud, like you're just so on edge. That is kind of what it's like to have that day-to-day life where you lack that purpose. And that is why you're always reaching for the new pair of shoes and the sugar and this, the $8 Starbucks and whatever else it is, to find that joy in your life, because you're just constantly on this edge. And so I mention this a lot, but I strongly encourage you, if your job dominates your life and you're high stress and you're always looking at emails and everything, try to take a step back and watch that food noise disappear a little bit, find some other purpose, find a new hobby, all of those types of things. And this will be a lot easier. Sometimes it's just really difficult to stick to the diet, even though you know what you're supposed to do, when you have this lack of purpose or fulfillment. So I know we're getting deep, but that's exactly what we do here, Kat, right? It's complicated.
Yeah, definitely. I think also just purpose and fulfillment in taking care of your body, doing the right things, like that can go a long way too. And then if you feel that way, then over time, making choices that work against that are easier to avoid, just by product of really appreciating your body and everything it can do for you. And that is not something that you can just switch on. It takes time. It definitely took me a very, very long time to get to the mental place I'm in, but it's because I wanted to be here and I put work to do so. It didn't just happen naturally. It was like a byproduct of massive effort.
That's right. And that's another just stamp for a program like ours, or any program, whatever. We're busy. We don't care if you work with us or not. We just want you to get help. But when you are a parent, for example, we see this all the time. There's these moms who are so burnt out and everything, they're last always. Like, that is another example, as you mentioned, Kat, of lacking purpose because you are no longer your priority. And I know that seems admirable on paper, to give every last dollar and every last ounce of energy to your kids. But actually, if you flip it on its head and you do self-care as family care, you will be amazed at how much easier this is, how much more patient you are as a parent, how much more present you are, because you are eliminating a lot of this food noise and a lot of this stress that's making your life very difficult. And so just remember that perspective. I know it seems like you made a commitment as a parent to never put yourself first again, but I couldn't disagree with that more. And I've lived both lives.
It is so important. So now that you want to improve your food noise, this is how to do so. So I'm going to also separate this into physical and psychological to make it just easier. So physical, these are all things we've talked